You stopped. No matter where you are or what has been occupying your mind throughout this day, stop everything right now. Something happened to your energy this Sunday. You might not have the precise words to describe it, but you felt that a heavy load, a pressure that seemed never-ending, reached a breaking point. I came here to tell you that the test you faced, the one that left you exhausted in your soul, has finally been overcome. You are no longer in the conflict zone. You have walked through the door of a time of trial. In this encounter, you will recognize the 3 specific signs that have been present in your life over the past few weeks and understand why they were not signs of defeat, but of calibration. You will grasp the invisible pattern that made your effort seem pointless, as if you were trying to open a door that was already locked from the outside. And above all, you will receive the revelation of the plan that is already in motion for your next cycle. What I'm about to deliver here is not advice. It is a confirmation. Stay with me, because this recognition is what will sustain your spirit during the transition you are about to live through. You have been feeling an exhaustion that ordinary sleep does not cure. It is a tiredness that seems to live in your bones, a sense that you have poured out every drop of energy, every thought, and every resource. Yet when you look around, nothing has changed. You have felt isolated even when surrounded by loved ones because you feel that no one can see the burden you carry silently. Conversations that once felt normal now sound like distant, hollow noise. You have had the impression that your effort, though intense, has been like planting seeds in soil that seems to bear no fruit. Breathe deeply. Feel the weight you brought here and realize that all of it, every moment of frustration, was a form of calibration. The silence around you is not abandonment. It is the preparation for you to hear your own direction. The distance from the people who once filled your daily life is not loss. It is the necessary clearing of your field of vision. And the tiredness, it is simply the indicator that you were carrying weights that were not yours, maintaining structures that your new self can no longer sustain. What you lived through was not a waste of time. It was the demolition of what needed to fall so that your true foundation could appear. As you write these numbers out in full, know that you are performing an act of agreement with your own process of release. The 888 is the frequency of abundance that manifests after the trial. The sign that what was contained is finally ready to flow. It is not just a sequence, it is your yes to what destiny has stored for you after the storm. Type 888. Acknowledge your place in the lineage of those who overcome through exhaustion and come immediately back to me. Now that you have recognized that your tiredness was simply a course correction, we need to face the truth about your fault. The diagnosis is simple and at the same time devastating. You have been operating from a pattern of resistance that no longer has a place in your present. Throughout this entire last cycle, you have been fighting against currents that simply no longer exist. You spent your energy trying to keep doors open that destiny had already decided to seal, not as a punishment, but as an act of protection. The mistake was never your effort, but the object of that effort. You applied your dedication, your loyalty, and your discipline to structures that had long exhausted their purpose. You tried to hold up the roof of a house whose foundation could no longer bear the weight of what you were about to build. It is as if you were rowing desperately against a tide that had in fact already turned in your direction. But you were so accustomed to the struggle, so used to the fight, that you did not realize the effort was no longer necessary. You became a master of survival, but that skill became your greatest trap. Your strength became your own barrier. You believed that if you stopped fighting, everything would collapse, when in reality, if you stopped fighting, you would finally have space to see what was already being built without your consent. To understand why this happened, we need to walk to what I call the hidden garden. Imagine for a moment a piece of land that belongs to you, a space that was set aside even before you were born. For years, you tended the surface of that garden, planting what people expected to see, keeping the facade impeccable, pruning the leaves so no one would notice the roots dying underneath. But what you did not understand is that the soil of that garden needed to be turned over. It needed to be flipped inside out so that the new planting could thrive. That period of apparent dryness, that phase when nothing sprouted and you felt your best yielded nothing, was not sterility. It was simply the painful process of plowing the earth. The gardener had to turn your world upside down, expose the buried stones, remove the dead roots that were taking up space for new life. You looked at the churned ground and wept, seeing the disorder, the dust and the emptiness, without understanding that this was the preparation for a harvest you cannot even imagine yet. The hidden garden must be empty to be filled with what is eternal. The earth must be removed so that what is new can find its way to the light. You were not being destroyed. You were being prepared for a planting that requires clean soil, uncluttered by everything you inherited. But that was never yours. It is not a request. It is a declaration of alignment. As you write these 3 words, you allow your spirit to surrender to the calibration happening in your hidden garden. You are confirming that you no longer need to fight against what is being removed, but that you are available for what is being sown. Type "I am ready," feel the solidity of that commitment, and without losing rhythm, come immediately back to me. The solution to your anguish is not in another attempt, nor in a new strategy, nor in a redoubled effort of human will. The solution is rest. And when I speak of rest, I do not mean sleep or taking a vacation. I mean active surrender. Surrender is the posture of one who recognizes that the plan is already underway and that your part is not to build, but to allow. It is the stillness of the sailor who, after years of trying to control the helm against the wind, finally lets go, realizing that the current itself is carrying the boat to the exact port he always wanted to reach. You have been tired because you believed your life depended on your constant support, but you forgot that there is a greater hand holding your own hand. The transition you are living is not a test of muscular endurance. It is a test of trust. God's plan for this next cycle does not require you to wear yourself out. It requires you to align. What is already being designed for your coming days is not something you will conquer by the sweat of your brow, but something you will receive by the readiness of your spirit. Rest is the highest form of spiritual intelligence. It is where your field of vision expands, where the voices that confuse you fall silent, and where clear direction finally emerges from the shadows. It is not about doing more. It is about being exactly who you were designed to be, without needing to prove anything to anyone. Not to the world, not even to your own conscience. Let what has been turned over rest in the peace of one who knows that, after all the ploughed earth, the seed that falls is inevitably the seed of abundant harvest. You no longer need to carry the weight of tomorrow, for it has already been handed over to the one who cares for every detail of your journey. Rest is the seal that you trust the gardener of your own destiny. We are not measuring popularity. We are not counting numbers to satisfy cold algorithms. We are sealing a pact of witness. By leaving this sign, you are declaring, without needing to articulate a single syllable, that the truth that circulated in this space found fertile soil in you. It is a gesture of alliance. It is how the Spirit says that the message was delivered, was received, and now becomes part of your own navigation map. Feel the weight of that alignment. Feel the tranquility that comes from realizing you are no longer walking in an isolated desert, but that your response echoes in a field of resonance greater than your own perception can reach. Now pause for a moment and breathe deeply, allowing stillness to take over the space around you. There is someone in your life who needs to hear exactly these words at this very moment. Think of that person who has been working exhaustively, carrying a burden that no one else seems to see, someone whose life has been marked by admirable discipline. but who now stands on the brink of discouragement for not seeing the fruits they expected. That person who walks in silence, who rarely complains, but whose eyes betray the weariness of one trying to hold the world up with their own hands, unaware that the divine plan is already taking care of the harvest. That person's face has just come to your mind, not by chance but by a call. Do not keep this relief to yourself. Send this content as a ministry of care, as a reminder to someone who, like you, needed to know that this Sunday's test was overcome and that the time of rest has finally arrived. Before this moment of revelation becomes part of your everyday story, it is necessary to seal what was established between your spirit and the clarity that now surrounds you. This is not a vague hope, but a confirmation of your role in the tapestry of the world. Do not write them on impulse. Write them with the conviction of one who knows that the process of plowing your hidden garden was not a punishment, but a rigorous preparation. As you type this affirmation, you are acknowledging that the difficulty you went through was not meant to destroy you, but to empty the old storehouses and make them capable of receiving the abundance that is coming. You are placing yourself in a posture of readiness, assuming the commitment to live from this new perception, free from the chains of the past and fully aligned with the design that brought you here. Type slowly, feel each letter, feel the solidity of your identity being reinforced by this declaration that rises from the depths of your consciousness. You are commissioned, you are sustained, you are sent. It is the confirmation that your journey required, the proof that your effort, however hidden it may have seemed to the eyes of the world, was seen and validated by the one who writes every chapter of your existence. You no longer walk on your own, for the responsibility for your journey has been transferred from your tired shoulder to the hand of Providence. You are the living proof that overcoming does not come from the noise of visible victories, but from the silent firmness with which you go through the hardest trial, maintaining the integrity of your soul even when the horizon seemed dark. Feel at this very moment the weight being lifted, the muscles of the soul relaxing after the long battle, and the awareness that your next cycle will not be measured by effort, but by flow. You are ready, not because you have acquired new abilities, but because you have shed the defenses that prevented you from receiving grace. The transition you lived through this weekend marks the beginning of a new season of harvest, where your only task is to keep your attention turned toward what is being revealed and the courage to remain in rest before the promise. At this exact moment, as the silence of the night stretches around you, you need to know that you are not living this process of purification in isolation. There are thousands of souls scattered across every corner of this world who are also feeling the exact same weight and the same liberation that you are experiencing now. As you breathe, hundreds of people are crossing at this very instant the transition from pain to the recognition of divine will, forming an invisible network of hearts that have decided that the fight will no longer be fought by their own arms, but by absolute surrender. You are part of a purpose that does not need announcements or spotlights to exist, because the strength of what is real lies precisely in its silent and constant nature. The unity you feel now, that strange and deep connection with the unknown, is the proof that your path has crossed the paths of many others who, like you, were called to this specific moment of spiritual recalibration. You are those who decided to stop running against the wind in order to finally allow themselves to be carried by the breeze of providence. This attunement is not an accident nor a statistical coincidence, but a convergence prepared so that no one would feel abandoned in the crossing. Imagine for a brief second that vastness of people in different time zones, in different realities, all stopping at the same instant to breathe and accept that the test was overcome. Each one of them, like you, is being invited to release the ropes that still bound the soul to fear and excessive effort. It is a collective movement of return to the center, An orchestra that plays without anyone needing to conduct, where each note is the trust that the plan is already underway and that nothing, absolutely nothing, has been forgotten in the construction of your journey. When you recognize yourself in this multitude of chosen ones, your loneliness disappears, giving way to a consciousness of belonging that transcends the boundaries of what can be seen or touched. You understand that your Sunday of trial was not an isolated event, but a fundamental piece in a mosaic much larger than your human perception could comprehend alone. It is the security of knowing that when you surrender, you do not lose yourself, but find yourself within a purpose that embraces and sustains you. Let this certainty flood every cell of your being, calming whatever anxiety remains and replacing fear with the stillness of one who finally understands that order has been restored, and that the calm you so sought is, in fact, the natural state of one who walks in alignment with the higher will. What was planted in your hidden garden during this weekend has already begun to germinate, and the harvest will not be rushed by your desire, but will be abundant in measure of your maturation. Keep this clarity as a banner, protecting your peace from any external noise that tries to reclaim control of your attention. You already know what you needed to know. You have already heard what you needed to hear. Clarity is now your shelter, and truth is your foundation. And from this point on, what comes will be only the natural unfolding of everything that was confirmed here. Let this moment be the turning point you have waited so long for, the indelible mark that separates the person who fought against life from the person who now cooperates with the destiny reserved for you. Your posture now is that of one who watches the storm pass, knowing that your house was built on the rock of conviction and that no contrary wind can shake the structure your own spirit consolidated today. Feel the relief of one who finally found the key that opened all the doors that seemed locked, and realize that the key was always in your readiness to surrender. The cycle closes, the lesson is absorbed, and the preparation is complete. Everything is exactly where it should be. You no longer need to look back to understand where your path went astray, for the vision you receive now is from above, from a place where the timeline reveals itself as a single fabric without interruptions. The tiredness you felt was not just physical, not just the wear of a week or a month. It was the weight of carrying armor that no longer served your purpose. For a long time, you believed your strength lay in your ability to resist, to face walls with your own chest, and to force open paths that insisted on staying closed. But this Sunday brought a truth that dissolves that obsolete belief. Your true power is not in resistance, but in the fluidity with which you allow yourself to be carried by the flow that has always been available. The effort you put in was your greatest teacher, and though it seemed like a failure, it was in fact the process of exhaustion necessary for you to finally lower your guard. Imagine at this instant a garden that went through a long drought. The earth, hardened by the sun and lack of care, seems incapable of receiving any seed. You tried to water that earth, you tried to dig with your own hands, you even tried to bring water from sources that were already dry, believing that if you just tried a little harder, the sprout would appear. But what you did not realize is that the very process of turning the soil, even if accompanied by pain and frustration, was what prepared the ground for the rain that has just fallen. Your hidden garden was not dying. It was being cleaned of all the weeds that grew from intentions that were not yours. Every moment you felt alone, when your voice was not heard or your work seemed invisible, was in fact a layer of protection being removed so that the essence of what you truly came to do could finally breathe. It is not a request. It is a declaration from one who has stopped fighting their own nature. Let these words be the marker of a new time, the record that you understood that the harvest does not depend on your anxiety, but on your readiness to sustain what was entrusted to you. As you type, you are not just sending a message, You are anchoring a new posture in your consciousness, allowing the revelation to stabilize where there was only confusion. Type and return, for there is still more to be absorbed from this revelation. What happens next is a movement of rest, not of inertia. Many confuse silence with lack of action, but the silence you inhabit now is a place of high activity. It is here that God's plan for your next cycle is drawn, not with frantic brushstrokes, but with the precision of one who knows the right time for every season. You begin to realize that the doors that did not open were, in fact, protections against paths that would not lead to your original destiny. The detour you considered a mistake was, in essence, a benevolent redirection. You are not late. You have not missed the right time. You have been throughout this entire Sunday, being calibrated to a frequency that can only be reached by those who accept that they no longer need to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. Your surrender is your greatest contribution to what is coming. Look now at the people who cross your path, those you meet in brief moments, or even those who occupy your thoughts with a persistence you can't explain. There's someone, a specific person, walking in silence. Someone who has also felt worn out from trying so hard. Someone who, just like you, carries a brightness the world hasn't fully understood yet. That person's face is appearing in your mind right now because they need the same relief you've just found. Don't reach out to explain what you heard. Just send this message as a gesture of quiet care, a way to say, without needing explanations, that the test has been passed. Look at your Sunday with grateful eyes. What you lived through wasn't an ordeal to measure your endurance. It was a rite of passage to measure your ability to surrender. And arriving at this point, your identity becomes clear, with no need to prove anything to anyone. Before we close this time, type the phrase, "I am the chosen one," in the comments. Type it with the conviction of someone who finally understands their position. Not as a boastful title, but as the acceptance of a responsibility placed in your hands by a will that knows your worth better than you do yourself. Let those words be the final seal of your experience, the mark you carry with you as you walk out of this moment of reflection and back into your life, now transformed by a new perspective. Your journey doesn't end at the door of this Sunday. It takes on a new shape, a new direction, a new breath. What was revealed here isn't a theory. It's a map for your next steps. When you get up tomorrow, the weight that seemed unmovable will have dissolved. Not because the circumstances changed, but because your way of relating to the divine has become unshakable. You now understand that God's silence isn't an absence of response. It's the foundation being laid for what you'll build for the rest of your path. Stay in this stillness for a few more moments. Breathe deeply and feel the transition between who you were just hours ago and who you've become by crossing through this Sunday. Every fiber of your being, every experience that once felt like a burden, now makes sense as part of a larger design. A tapestry that can only be seen from the right side when we stop trying to weave it with our own hands. Feel now this peace that surpasses all human understanding. It isn't temporary, it's your new home. When the world around you demands once again your effort, your performance, or your hurry, you will have the authority not to respond in kind. You will know that your worth doesn't depend on visible results, but on your faithfulness in staying on the frequency that today, finally, has become your inner voice. You are commissioned, you are sustained, you are sent. Right now, all across the world, others like you are receiving this same confirmation, feeling the same relief, and understanding the same hidden truth. You are not walking alone on this journey of purpose. This is the strength of one who was prepared in silence and now is ready to inhabit clarity.